I remember holding Lily for the very first time. Her tiny hand wrapped around my finger, a perfect fit. It had taken so many years, so much heartache to reach that moment. Every failed attempt, every doctor's visit had been worth it. She was my miracle, the culmination of all my hopes. I felt a bond so deep, so absolute that it filled every part of me. She was my world, and I promised her then, silently, that I would protect her always. Julian was there in the hospital, just hours after Lily was born. He brought flowers, a big smile. He seemed happy for us. I remember him asking specific questions, though. "Are you sure about her birth weight?" he'd asked, or did they ever mix up babies in the nursery? I brushed them off as new Uncle Jitters, just an overly cautious brother. He even offered to take her for a moment while I rested. I was too tired to notice anything truly strange. Years passed, and Lily grew into a vibrant, curious child. Every giggle, every new word was a treasure. She had my eyes, I thought, but her hair was a shade lighter than mine. Her nose was a little different. Sometimes a fleeting thought would cross my mind, a whisper of doubt, but I always pushed it away. Children aren't carbon copies. It was just natural variation, I told myself. My love for her only deepened with each passing day. Julian's visits became less about family and more about subtle jabs. He'd make comments about my perfect life, his voice laced with something I couldn't quite place. "Must be nice, Alara, having everything fall into place for you," he'd say, looking at Lily with an unreadable expression. I tried to ignore it, to brush off his envy. We had always been competitive, but this felt darker, more personal. It made me uneasy. The tension finally erupted during a family dinner. It was about Grandma's will, a small inheritance that Julian felt he was owed more of. Voices rose, words were thrown like stones. My parents tried to mediate, but the air was thick with resentment. Julian was cornered, his arguments failing. He looked desperate, his eyes darting around the room, searching for a way out. I felt a chill, sensing something truly ugly was about to surface. Julian's face twisted into a cruel smirk. "You think you've won, Alara?" He sneered, his voice low and dangerous. "You think your perfect little life is safe?" My heart pounded. He leaned in, his eyes burning into mine. "I have a secret, one that could destroy everything you hold dear, everything you think you know." The words hung in the air, heavy and menacing. I felt a wave of icy fear wash over me, a premonition of disaster. Then he said it. The words that shattered my world. "Lily isn't your daughter, Alara, not by blood." He pulled out an old, crinkled hospital wristband, not Lily's, but another name. "I swapped them," he stated, cold and matter-of-fact. "Just after she was born, it was easy." My breath caught in my throat. The room spun. The image of that tiny wristband, so real, so impossible, burned into my mind. I couldn't breathe. No, it couldn't be true. My mind screamed, rejecting the horror. "You're lying." I choked out, tears streaming down my face. Julian just laughed, a hollow, cruel sound. "Am I? Look at her, Alara, really look. Does she truly look like you, or me?" He picked apart every small difference I had ever dismissed, twisting them into monstrous proof. He said I was just in denial, that I always saw what I wanted to see. His words were poison. I looked at Lily later that night, sleeping peacefully in her bed. My beautiful girl. My heart ached with a pain I had never known. How could this be? The love I felt for her was real, undeniable. It pulsed through every fiber of my being. But Julian's words, that horrifying wristband, had planted a seed of doubt. Was my entire life a lie? Was the most sacred bond I knew, the one with my child, a cruel deception? My world felt upside down. I knew I couldn't live with this uncertainty, this gnawing doubt. I had to know the truth, no matter how devastating. The next morning, with shaking hands, I found a lawyer's number online. I wouldn't tell anyone yet. This was my secret for now. I had to be strong for Lily, for myself. I would find the proof. I would uncover every detail of Julian's monstrous act. My family might shatter, but I would not break. Getting a DNA sample from Lily felt impossible without giving away my secret. How could I ask for a strand of hair, a nail clipping, without her noticing? My heart ached with the deception. I spent hours online, searching for old hospital records, trying to remember every detail of that day. It felt like trying to find a needle in a haystack, a terrifying, tiny needle that held my entire future. I knew I had to be careful, every step counted. I started making discreet calls to the hospital, asking about past staff. Most people had moved on. One old nurse, Mrs. Davies, finally picked up. She remembered the chaos of that day, a busy shift, a few new mothers. Her voice was tired, but she recalled a small detail, a temporary power flicker in the nursery that briefly disrupted the electronic tagging system. It was a tiny crack, but a crack nonetheless. My hope flickered to life. The legal and medical hurdles were immense. No one wanted to believe an infant substitution had happened years ago. Lawyers said it would be nearly impossible to prove. Doctors were hesitant to help without concrete evidence. Each no felt like a punch. I was physically and emotionally drained. The weight of Julian's lie and the burden of finding the truth alone was crushing. I felt like I was screaming into a void. My husband, Mark, started looking at me differently. He saw my late nights, my hushed phone calls, my endless research. "Ilara, what's going on?" he asked, his voice tight. "You're acting like a stranger." I couldn't tell him. Not yet. The thought of shattering his world, our family, with Julian's monstrous lie was too much. His accusations of paranoia felt like daggers, pushing me further into my lonely hunt for truth. The distance between us grew with each passing day. I finally confronted Julian alone. His eyes gleamed with a twisted satisfaction. "Still playing detective, Ilara," he sneered. He wouldn't give me any direct answers, only cryptic hints. He enjoyed my pain. He mentioned a family favor he'd done, a way to help someone out. His words were designed to confuse and torment me. Each manipulative syllable deepened my agony, but also solidified my resolve. I would not let him win. Through relentless searching, I found an old, handwritten logbook from the nursery, tucked away in an archive. It detailed a brief power outage and a manual retagging of infants. A nurse's initial, M.S., was next to a note about a minor mix-up quickly corrected. But it wasn't corrected. Mrs. Davies had confirmed M.S. was a new nervous nurse. The logbook showed a baby girl Smith was briefly unaccounted for. This was it. This was my lead. The envelope felt impossibly heavy in my hands. My lawyer sat across from me, his face grave. I tore it open, my eyes scanning the words. Not a match. The world tilted. Lily, my sweet Lily, wasn't mine by blood. A second page identified another child, born on the same day in the same hospital as my biological daughter. Her name was Maya. Two halves of my heart, ripped apart, then impossibly, painfully found. My vision blurred with tears. The emotional fallout was catastrophic. I loved Lily with every fiber of my being, and that love hadn't changed, but the truth was a gaping wound. Mark was devastated, angry, and confused. Our marriage shattered under the weight of the lie and my secrecy. He couldn't reconcile the child he knew with the horrific reality. The knowledge of Maya, my biological child, living somewhere else, was a constant ache. I felt like I was being torn in two, a mother to two children, but truly whole to neither. Grief turned to a burning, unyielding fury. Julian had stolen my life, my family, my identity as a mother. I would not let him get away with it. I meticulously gathered every piece of damning evidence. The logbook, Mrs. Davies's testimony, the DNA results, Julian's own taunting messages. My legal team was ready. This wasn't just about justice. It was about public vindication, about exposing the monster who had weaponized my deepest longing. I would make sure the world knew his name. The public revelation was swift and devastating for Julian. His carefully built life crumbled under the weight of his monstrous act. The world knew his truth, and he faced severe legal repercussions. For me, the journey was just beginning. Meeting Maya for the first time was surreal, a mix of profound joy and aching regret for lost years. Lily, too, was struggling, confused but still surrounded by my unending love. We were a broken family, but we were fighting to heal, piece by painful piece. Julian's name was synonymous with betrayal, and while justice was a cold comfort, knowing the truth and fighting for my children, both of them, gave me a new purpose. It was a bittersweet beginning, but it was ours, finally, truly ours.